Earlier today was Opening Night Live 2024, kicking off Gamescom and giving us some big updates on the future of Bethesda games. Some of this was even confirming past leaks as being true, but also some of the announcements today pissed off quite a bit of the community in the process. We'll get some big updates around Starfield here. New content is coming both today as well as slightly in the future for Starfield. As later today, or perhaps even as you're watching this video, Starfield's Rev 8 update should finally be here. This is that promised land vehicle update for Starfield. This update actually ended up leaking a couple of weeks ago, and actually more on how that all leaked in a moment, but we got a full debut of this new buggy and it looks pretty awesome in this new trailer. The buggy is going to feature a variety of new mechanics in Starfield, like it'll have boosters for hopping around, a weapon system for defense on the move, as well as there's even going to be variants of the buggy, a covered or uncovered one, as well as a special buggy for carrying around Vasco, and there's some color customization options available to you. But of course, the addition of this buggy is a pretty big deal on two major fronts. One, it looks like we actually have a functional land vehicle in a Bethesda game. The technology is finally there, and it does kind of feel like that is a milestone being hit, but also Starfield's long walk issue, where after landing on a planet or trying to get to a point of interest, you just have this obnoxiously long walk that takes away from the enjoyment. Now, having a functional vehicle to make that walk a lot more fun gameplay-wise, but also a lot faster, could be a big improvement for the game overall. At the time of recording this, the update isn't out just yet, so I can't test it, although from some of the past leaks, we did hear how this buggy was really the bulk of this new update. As unfortunately, this update actually had several leaks already. This all came to be via the Verified Creators program, those making paid mods for Starfield who got access to this update a bit earlier than everyone else. And as you can imagine, those who got access immediately started leaking it online. So the new update does look interesting and cool, but separately at Opening Night Live 2024, we also just learned that Starfield Shattered Space expansion is dropping in just over 1 month on September 30th. Interestingly, no further details or even much new footage was shared to go along with this release date announcement for Shattered Space, but we have heard how Starfield will have some exclusive theater presentations at Gamescom, so perhaps more will come out in the coming days, as well as some new details about the expansion did pop up on the Shattered Space page on the official Gamescom website, saying, a mysterious power stirs in Dazra City on House Varun's hidden homeworld Varun Kai. Investigate this frightening new cosmic threat and uncover the secrets behind the galaxy's most enigmatic factions in Shattered Space, the epic new narrative DLC expansion for Bethesda Game Studios' Starfield. So this honestly sounds pretty par for the course for a Bethesda Game Studios DLC. A distress signal taking us to a completely new landscape that we didn't have access to previously, but at the same time, this also sounds really interesting and exciting for Starfield, because based off that description, it seems like Starfield Shattered Space expansion will not only just be on one planet, but really just focused around one city. And it feels like this will bring an overall change up on the Starfield formula. Hopefully a significant departure from the constant fast traveling that you have in the base game, where in this DLC, a lot more walking on foot or perhaps even using this new land vehicle will be how you get around. But the fact that Shattered Space's release date is not that far away, and in addition to that, we didn't really get much in the way of new gameplay or content around the expansion from this most recent trailer, it makes me wonder if we see another healthier review period when it comes to Shattered Space. Starfield originally had a full-on 2-week review period, which was amazing. You could really dive into the content and formulate your opinion before your review. Perhaps we're seeing something similar here, because I feel like we don't really know that much about what's coming with Shattered Space, but perhaps we'll just have a bunch of reviews coming out that will share many of those details. But this most recent update also marks the end of promised features for Starfield. The addition of a vehicle marks the completion of their 2024 plans laid out here. I know some were hoping for a full-on Cyberpunk 2.0 style revamp for Starfield, but at least as of right now, we really have had zero indication that something like that is coming. It seems like going forward, things will be added via expansions, and that's really the direction of the game with tomorrow. This new buggy looks like quite a bit of fun, but I'm not sure this is enough for a full-on new playthrough just yet, but at the very least, we know Shattered Space is just a little over a month away, and many of you already own this one. If you picked up the premium edition of Starfield, you do get Shattered Space for free with that. Beyond that, we also got a brief trailer of Indiana Jones, and I gotta be honest, I was not a fan of this trailer. Indiana Jones continues to look really interesting to me. I definitely think this will be one of the standout games of the year overall. But at the same time, I feel like from these trailers and gameplay, it continues to be kind of hard to get a grasp on what the game actually is like to play. We definitely can see some of the gameplay interactions here, using environmental objects to solve some puzzles, or even further, some of the various tools and interactables that you can use in combat to keep things a bit more flavorful. I personally thought some of the hand-to-hand combat just looked rough in this trailer. Some of the animations were super stiff, and the overall flow just left a lot to be desired for me. But at the same time, some of the puzzles do look genuinely exciting. This game was previously described as having a pretty unique gameplay style, and these trailers continue to reinforce that. It seems like Indiana Jones will be this interesting cross between action-adventure and full-on puzzle solving. And overall, it looks like we have a nice mashup of features. Combat flow with several ways to approach combat encounters. We hear how the camera and journal are going to be tools with helping solve puzzles and finding clues or secrets in the world. And for me, it's not like anything I've seen thus far about Indiana Jones has looked bad. I just desperately want to see a more extended version of this gameplay. The game itself looks interesting and promising, but it feels like we've really only seen a bunch of 10-second snippets here and there. We of course did get a longer look at some of these story moments and cutscenes, but I want to know what it's actually like to play this game, and I feel like nothing has really given me that thus far. Indiana Jones is also slated to get some theater presentations at Gamescom, so perhaps we will get some of these details a bit later on. But there's also the very important detail that Indiana Jones is dropping on December 9th, 2024 for PC and Xbox, and the much larger announcement is Indiana Jones is a timed exclusive coming to PS5 in spring of 2025, with Tom Warren reporting that an April release date is currently being internally targeted for Indiana Jones on PS5. So that means that even before release, before sales, or even pre-sales for Indiana Jones, Xbox is choosing to bring this over to PlayStation, and that is a pretty big deal. Previously, the games brought over to PlayStation were meant to have a saturated market on Xbox, being able to find a new audience on PlayStation. But with Indiana Jones, that's obviously just not the case. Xbox didn't even wait for sales numbers to decide to port this one. Many in the community are taking this to mean that Microsoft doesn't have a ton of confidence in Xbox going forward, and this very well mean that this will be the final generation where Xbox is actively trying to compete with a mainline console against Sony. And yeah, I tend to agree. I think the simple fact that Microsoft was ever considering bringing some of their games over to PlayStation was incredibly telling. This was a clear indication that whatever they were doing wasn't working. They had a pretty marked strategy shift from big Game Pass exclusives to, oh, we'll actually bring some of these games over to our competition, and that just feels very telling. I imagine the numbers on some of these acquisitions and exclusives for Xbox are just no longer making sense, so with some of these games, they're dropping that exclusivity to get the money factor up a bit higher. And if you ask me, this is definitely a good thing. Exclusives are only a bad thing in gaming. The faster we get away from this stuff, the better for gaming overall. Although, before you have the opportunity to play almost all of that, did you know that you'll be able to play a new Elder Scrolls game? Bethesda also just announced that the Elder Scrolls Castles will finally be dropping on September 10th globally. And this is actually a pretty important distinction, as the Elder Scrolls Castles is already playable in some parts of the world, but it's only going to be coming to the US as well as many Western markets in a few weeks on September 10th again. The Elder Scrolls Castles is most easily compared to Fallout Shelter. It has those familiar base building and even combat mechanics, but Castles also bring some expanded features as well. There's going to be a dynasty mechanic for establishing bloodlines and even rules you can apply to your empire. This game right now seems interesting. If you really enjoyed Fallout Shelter, it seems like this will likely appeal to you as well. But the art style and overall design of this game definitely is a bit odd. It's Elder Scrolls in the content it has, but it doesn't really look or feel like Elder Scrolls either. But of course, it wasn't only Bethesda at opening night live this year, and for many, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 stole the show at Gamescom 2024 thus far. We get to see some more of that intricate swordplay, but also a clear improvement in visuals for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 compared to the first game. And just overall, this game is looking like a blast. I'm definitely planning a full suite of coverage on this one, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has a pretty interesting release date, coming out just a week before Avowed. And even Avowed itself just got a new trailer. NVIDIA posted a ray tracing comparison video, and to me, this was super interesting. Through some of the past trailers, and even here, I feel like Avowed goes from looking absolutely amazing to almost looking outdated at other shots. It just feels like at points some of the textures or visuals overall look really old, but then other times it looks like a true Unreal Engine 5 RPG that you should get really excited for. Avowed is another one of those games meant to have some theater presentations at Gamescom, so it's very likely we'll be learning more later this week. With that said though, those are some of my impressions and thoughts about the future of Bethesda as revealed at Gamescom 2024. And get subscribed because I'll definitely be testing out many of these updates and DLCs as they do release.